Hello out there. This is Sarah Poff, and I'm here at Mid-Continent Public Library. I'm the multimedia storyteller, and we're here to do a fall painting. Uh, it's getting cool and crisp outside, and I always love looking at the trees. And to me, they just change so much. This time of year, there's a lot of contrast there in the bark, and of course, we know those leaves. Those first few leaves are so pretty to look at, and trees are one of my favorite fall items. All right, well, I think it's time for us to get started. Now, this is acrylic. As I always like to tell you, you can take a lot of the painting skills and transfer them to oil and watercolor in a little bit different way, but you can still do that. You can see I've already been painting this morning. So let me move this. I like to have a little items there for me to show you along the way to get us in the mood. Yes, so I'm taking my jacket off so I don't have to get paint on it. All right, so I always tell you I just do whatever. This one's on a board that I painted, that one that I found that was pretty thick. And then this one is just one of those flat canvases. You can of course always go and buy the framed canvas if you want. You can paint on wood. You can paint on masonite. There's all different kinds of things. There's not a right and wrong. There's just simply not a right and wrong in this process. Okay, well, first we're going to do is a tree. We want to think about the placement of the tree. You can tell when I move. Yes, my necklace. I like my necklace. I told the kids at school that, I get to wear the necklace and make the noise you don't get to. So it was fun. So you want to make a tree. Think about how you want your tree to be. Now, when I was teaching at Chapel Lakes in Blue Springs, we used to make what I called YV trees. Now, our tree doesn't quite fit that, but we're going to use some of that in the limbs of it. So I'm going to take a fairly wide brush. Some people ask me, like, what size, what kind? Oh, I'm not that kind of artist. And I've seen some of those old guys and ladies. I've seen some of theirs, and they just have random brushes too. So we can do random. We don't have to have. All right, so I'm going to start here in this corner, and I'm going to go towards that because we're standing here looking up at that tree. So I'm just going to make a cross like this, kind of diagonal across there. So I'm just kind of getting this basic in. So I have an idea. Then I'm going to start putting in some of those in the background and come back and do this again here in a bit. All right, so that's probably good for what we want now, is just to kind of have an idea where that tree's going to go. Then I'm going to switch to some of these colors that I want to mix together. As I've told you, you don't really have to have anything but red, yellow, blue, black, and white and brown. You can make. Brown's a little bit hard to make. However, I'm running a little low on my yellow today, so I added in orange. I have some orange already bought up for this season for those kiddos because they have a little more trouble mixing the colors. Now, I use a sponge for this. You can use a brush, like there's stenciling brushes. Sometimes the kids in my life, or even I, forget, and I get a little stiff on my brushes, and I just use them. You could use a household brush and just stamp with it like that. There's all different kinds of ways. As I've told you, there's not a right, there's not a wrong. I'll just start out with this so we can do a big section quick. So I'm going to this is going to be my yellows, my orange, my red, my brown. And I'm just trying to stamp in the background. And I want it to be dry paint because we want it to dry quickly so that we can paint on top of it and add other colors. And I'm going to wait on that yellow. I'll put a little yellow on there after we get on the top. That way I can kind of be conservative with the yellow. So you've been having some fun with the weather getting cooler. Oh my. I like spring, but fall's my favorite. I don't know. I like the activities that we get to have in the fall. We get to have so much fun with those outside activities, and we know we better enjoy them because winter's coming. Winter's coming. I'm just going to see how much of this I can kind of get going here. Stamp, 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 stamp. I like to take my paintbrush and stamp, stamp, stamp. Stamp, stamp, stamp. Stamp, stamp, stamp. Keep on going with that stamp. And don't get too heavy on those colors. Sometimes you get a little too heavy there. Of course, you can always let it dry and paint over it. You know, that's the cool thing about having that acrylic that dries fast. I sometimes use tempera paint cakes. I've talked about them before. I know some of you are repeats. Some of you might be new. So I try to just go through some of those kind of things as I go. I've read some articles and where it talks about how to, get something going faster, how to paint and complete a painting in less time. And so it doesn't always fit the traditional way of painting. But we want to get this in, in an hour. Is what our goal is to paint this in an hour. Now, sometimes, sometimes you may want to come back and add a little more. And hey, that's totally cool. That's totally cool. You are welcome to do that. But what I'm trying to do is help you get the basics of this painting. And I want to show you a dip. See, I dip the sides into the paint, and I use whatever I can find as my palette to put my paint on. My favorite thing is to use a Krell plate, and I let the paint dry, and then I put water on the paint that's in the plate, and then I call it sloughing it off. It kind of just bubbles up. The water gets underneath it. And it's really cool. And then I take and I make jewelry out of it, like this one is a pin. So I know you might not wear that pin, but, us artists, we do things a little different sometimes. I could be caught wearing that. Now, if you want to add, a little bit of blue or some other color, there's a lot of different colors of leaves. Getting a little dark here I am. And as you see, I haven't used any water at all. I'm trying to keep it dry. Just trying to keep it real dry. Now I'm going to go right up on that tree a little bit because I don't want that white to show in the end. I want it to be a color, one of our fall colors. And so I'm just going to go through it all. Paint, 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 paint. Well, really, I'm not painting. I'm really just kind of stamping it in with the end of that paintbrush. I was so excited when I learned that trick, because that's not exactly how they taught me when I went to that college all those years ago. But those books talked about how, to make it happen fast. Would we have ever painted? I don't think I'd ever in college would have gotten by with painting with a household brush. No, I don't think that would have happened. At least not when the professor's in the room. Of course, there are many art hours in that old art lab. Fun stories there. Oh, I hit my pumpkins again. Reminds me of when I was in the classroom. All right. So I think what I'm going to do now is I have my handy dandy little hair dryer. Thanks to my friend for helping me out. We're going to let it dry some here. This one's not as noisy as the one I usually have. So now at home, you can just, let your painting sit, and then you can come back to it. But since I want to try to do this in an hour, or if you're with a group of people and you want to do it the basics in an hour, it does help to have that hairdryer around. And I believe that's on the list that gets posted with this. I try to stay with that. I try. Doesn't take long for it to start drying up since we put it lightly. And that's how you do with these kind of classes is you paint light. You want to coat it in. It's more like a color sheet kind of version. If you know about art and you have more skills, hey, great. Go ahead and do it. I want you to. However, I'm trying to help those who are just starting out to feel success in what they do, pretty quickly. And then as you feel success in this, doing something simple like this, then you're able to transfer that and go to the next level. Go get some more books and learn. Hey, Mid-Continent Public Library has lots of those kind of books that can help you out. Okay, now I used to do what I called YV trees with those kiddos at school. And I think we could use that now to help us remember a little bit of how to spread those limbs out a bit. So I'm going to actually do this in black so you can see on top of this, because I got a little dark with the lower layer here. So I'm going to do like this, and then I'm going to make a V on there. So a Y and a V. And I would have done that with this if my tree was that big, if we got to the top of my tree, but we haven't gotten way up there where that would be. We wanted the tree to look really wide. And then I'm just going to do like that. Do a couple more. So remember, we're down here looking up. And I thought about this. I started to add it, and then I thought, well, maybe somebody wouldn't want it that way, so I didn't. But I thought you could also add a pumpkin here at the base if you wanted, the top part of a pumpkin, or maybe something else like that you would like to add. Now, I also want to come back on a YV tree. You also need to come back and make some more V's. All right, since you kind of see this in the black, I'm going to add some brown in there now. I wanted you to be able to see that, because we want a mix of that. I know when I would have the kids add in black, they're like, oh, but that tree's not black. And I was like, but it has in the fall, when you see the different textures of the trunk and the bark, it has a little bit of that in it. It gives it a little dimension there. And that's what we're trying to go for. So I'm just adding a little bit of black into my brown as I go. Little black. And we know that some of this will get covered up with more leaves on top. And then some of them will just, disappear. There's lots of limbs under there. We know that, little bitty limbs and big limbs. So what kind of fun fall activity are you doing this year? Hey, put it in a comment if you would like to. Put it in a comment. Are you having a paint party? Are you doing this on your own? Or maybe you want to make it for a gift. Almost every time I repaint these paintings, instead of me keeping them, I just send it to a friend. Especially when you do the flat canvas, just get a big envelope. It doesn't cost very much to mail. I thought, I'm not spending any more on this than if I was buying a card. Especially when you've already got your paint and you've learned how. It just doesn't take that much. I like those kind of presents. They are fun to get when somebody spent their time and energy to make something for me. And if you want to, like put a little bit of black on this edge and that edge. You can certainly do that. You can spend some time doing that. I think I want to let this one dry up just a bit and add a little bit more brown to it. I like the fall because I get to dress up like a pioneer more often. There are all those festivals they have, and what they like me to come and do is they like me to come dress like a pioneer and tell pioneer stories. So I get booked a lot for those, and the fall is so much fun. And then you get to see all those things those pioneer ancestors did. Of course, then we wouldn't have our technology, and I do like my technology too. Technology is fun if used in the appropriate ways. Because that's something you could do right now if you wanted to stop and you wanted to learn more about, a certain kind of tree or how to make it a little bit better, this or that. You can combine the two knowledge and have a little fun with it. Watch this ahead of time and then, bring your friends in and have a fall. Oh, can you smell that hot apple cider? I think somebody must have some hot apple cider in the room. Oh, I like that. I like hot apple cider and kettle corn. Yum. Yum, yum. Fall has lots of taste and smells. Okay, I think I better get my little blow dryer out again. Okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time with that because this is pretty dry here, and I can go ahead and add on top of that and then add on top of some of the limbs here in a bit. I also thought about it when I was doing this because a lot of people like this tealish color. You could add a little bit of color wherever you intend to hang the painting. You could add a little bit of that color on top. That's kind of fun. Now, I think I am going to switch to my sponge. There's a lot of craft stores that sell those these days. I use them quite a bit. I learned to use them and like them a number of years ago. Now, you still want to do what we did before. You want to do very light. But the fun thing about a sponge, and you could even cut a sponge and put it in a clothespin. I do that a lot. See, you see all the little texture in there? And this is one that would be easy for children to do. And if they don't get the perspective part of the big tree, they could just do one straight up. I've even done it with children where I did their hand. So that's a fun memory to have. I think my tree might need to be thicker down here. I think it's got to support those big old limbs up there I fixed. The art professor always did say, you got to stand back, and look at your painting from many different directions, so that you know what it looks like to someone else. If you're going to hang it on your wall, which wall, how far are people going to be away. You want it to, something about the painting to capture their attention. And then you would like for some part of it to draw them closer and make them want to look at your details. You want, a center of interest. I like the trunk as on this one, my center of interest. And you see I made the lighter colors down here. And then the eye flows around looking at the limbs and up the leaves and all up there. I don't know about you, but you know what I do is I love to go out, just wherever I go. And I like to look up at the trees and the limbs and the design they make, just the natural design of those. Oh my goodness, it's just mind blowing how cool nature's designs are. Now, I've added some other colors in here. Um, if you're not careful, if you do that too much, you may need to wipe it off a bit. Right now, I'm still okay, I think. But you probably don't want it muddled. I mean, if you like the muddled, that's fine. I kind of like to not muddle too much. And keeping it dry helps with that. And as you see, I haven't added yellow in it. Like I said, I don't. My yellow's kind of, I want you to learn to adapt on that way. I mean, yes, I could go get some more. Yes, but sometimes you just go, oh, well, I have this here. Let's try it this way. And that helps with the experimentation. Yes, I was talking with my hand. I like to talk with my hands. It's just you don't see as much of it on here. I got my hands occupied painting. Stamp, 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 stamp. I do like to stamp, 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 and mix color, mix color, mix color. Stamp, 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 stamp. Yes, it is fun to stamp. Combine pretty colors and make pretty paintings. Anybody had a campfire yet this year? That smoke. Oh, it's a wonderful smell. I actually live in a town now that allows open burning. So I get to smell that smell more often than I used to. As a child, we used to pull all of our leaves up and burn them. Stamp, 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 stamp. I do like to stamp my painting. All right, see if I can stand up here and look at it. I'm probably going to go back and after that dries a little bit and bring those limbs out a bit. I did stamp on top of them some. I do want to take and put a little yellow on there now, but since I don't have as much yellow, what I'm going to do is I'm trying to show you some troubleshooting. Now I'm going to dip this in. I don't want to swish it in because then my spun will absorb. Yes, I know, there's glitter in there. There's a reason. It's the top to the glitter container. It was just sitting there, so I just used it. I told you I just use what I have around. That's just how I do this. I'm not a fancy or a certain way or a certain kind of brush that it has to be. I just go for it. I just go for it. Okay. I'm going to try it out. Got some kind of a brownish green in there, but I think we'll be good. See if you just add a little yellow on top. There's something about yellow that just that light yellow on top just brings out the other colors in a really cool way. Let's see, I guess I haven't told a classroom story yet, have I? Yes, the singing came from the fact that I was always trying to keep the children going on their painting, especially when it was boring or whatever art project we were doing. I was always trying to keep them going. And I just started started singing when they were doing it. And that seemed to help them. Putting some more paint on my plate. So I thought you all would enjoy that downtime. It's been said about me that I could talk to a fence post. Maybe I can. It's fun. They don't want to listen to me, I'll just talk. I like to engage people in conversation. That's what I really like the most. I like someone who can talk just as fast and hard as I can and enjoy learning from others. And sometimes if you rattle a bit, they'll start opening up to you more. And then when I've spent my life teaching an art class, which means there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking that goes on. Now, I did it lighter down here on the other one. I'm going to do that here. I'm trying to look at my brush and to keep from mixing it as much. Do like that and then do like this. So they call that double dipping. Got to have a little more orange in here. A little more orange, there we go. A little more yellow. Trying to put out just a little bit at a time so it doesn't dry on me. There we go. And then remember I talked about that if there's some colors, or maybe you don't want yours to be these colors for fall, you can change it. I mean, you're the artist. You are the artist. You decide how that looks, how you want that to look. Where do you want that to blend in, wherever you want to hang it. I know my grandgirls have a tack strip downstairs that I put up for them, or the hubby put up for them, to put their artwork on. Where's your artwork going to hang? Mine usually makes it to the piano first. And then I go from there. Okay, I'm going to dry a little more, and then I'm going to go back and put some of those limbs on there. Put the limbs back in some. Need to see if I can concentrate on some areas here. All right. See if I can get a smaller brush this time. Oh, I need some more brown paint. Sometimes I don't put out as much because it tends to dry. Depends on what the humidity's like in the room that you're painting. And so I don't want the paint to dry. So I end up doing that. I'm just going to put some brown in here. It'll touch it into the little black. And remember, you may not see the whole thing. You may just see part of it because of the leaves. I want to add some black in, but I'm going to take a really small brush. And I'm going to use my finger to kind of hold up. You can also, another trick that the professor taught was to do this. Get a paintbrush, a ruler, and do like this. So I do still make use of some of those skills those professors taught me back in the day. Now, when I do that, I have to concentrate more, so I can't talk as much. Sorry. Now, if you want it to look rounded, you can put some black on each edge of it, and then take a brush and kind of blend that down. Had to patch that little spot there that came right up against the leaf. Yeah, now I'm bracing off the plate. Okay, now I'm going to take a brush I have not painted with, because I want to kind of feather out what's there just a bit, because I don't want it to show up quite that much. Now, sometimes I've been known to do the non-traditional thing of coming back in with some black Sharpie lines, or if an ink pen or a colored pencil will write, if you're making small limbs and you want to see a few of those. This is your painting. It kind of sort of becomes a mixed medium when you add other things like that in, but it's still basically acrylic painting. And if you want to add some, go for it. Go for it. There's, these days we aren't quite as traditionalist on some of that. May turn it into a craft, some people might think. I'm sure there's other people who have other ideas. It's just my idea of how to make it happen. Okay, I'm going to come back in here. Paint, 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 paint. I sure do like it when I get to paint. What's your favorite color to add into a fall painting? Write that in the comments, maybe? Or maybe if you're having a paint party, just talk to it with your friends there. What might you add? How much layers of this do you want to see when you're painting? I think I want to see more trunk. I like to see that long trunk. Maybe I got overzealous with that stamping. See, that's the fun thing, is then you can do this. It's going to add a little bit of fall colors in there. Yep, it's going to. It'll be fine. We're just going to make it happen. So I challenge you to go out underneath some big old tree as you're taking a walk, or just, sometimes just as you're traveling about doing your errands, there'll be a tree here or there that's close to where you go in. And just look up at those branches. I went to one of my friends that lives here in Independence. I went to her house one fall, and I looked up and went, whoa, what a tree. And I stood there quite a while and took a bunch of pictures. I like it that we have this cell phone that we can do that now. And I turned it into the newspaper, and doggone if they didn't print it. Of course, I had to get her permission first. I did. I did write my friend and go, I have a really cool picture you want to see? So make sure, those kind of things. Always need to be checked about those. But yeah, it was awfully fun to I call it art on the go. That's art on the go. What can you do to make a picture, an artistic picture on the go? Some people like to look at some of mine that I have online, and they're always wanting me to print them out. And it's like, oh no, I'm not a printout person there. I have too many. I can't decide. Can't decide which ones I like the best. And I've taken so many over the years that it would take a lot of money to print them all. So I'm just satisfied to look at them digitally. And the more you practice creativity of whichever kind you choose, the easier it becomes. The easier it becomes to do it. That's what I would tell you. That's why I say, get a painting completed. Then if you want to come back later and you want to add some more into it, improve your skills, I would suggest though just kind of repainting it, not painting over it. I mean, you could add to, but not paint over it. That way you kind of see where your skills are and how you're developing with it. And when you go and look at, go to some famous artist's house, we have some around in the Kansas City area, Independence area. You can see that they painted that multiple times. It's not something that they only did once. I remember going to the Nelson Art Gallery, and I walked down this hall, and Thomas Hart Benton, it was like, oh, wait, I've seen that before. I've seen that it was drawings is what it was. But as he traveled around, kind of like my art on the go, as he traveled around, he would draw people. And then a lot of those people ended up in his paintings. So you do the best job on something that you've done multiple times in multiple ways. Excuse me, I think I should get water. So just think about that. It takes a lot of practice to do what some of those guys did. I just like my fun little paintings. I wanted to have her seasonal change at my house, and you may get into the art and go, oh, I really like this. I want to do more. Oh, great. Art is a wonderful pastime. Make a little money on the side sometimes. I always try to give advice to the kids of, it's great to go for an art career. Sometimes it doesn't work out as good as you think, and you've got to think about what else. But I know that I was talking to some people earlier about historically what people did. They had multiple jobs. I was reading, pulling the census records, and every census they had a different job. And I think we see more of that these days in our society. As the people right before us, a lot of times did the same job for a long time. Okay, add a little more yellow. I think this is fun when you just keep adding and adding layers to it. Layers and layers and layers of color. And as you see, I'm not, like this time, I'm not doing flat down with the sponge. I'm doing it on its side. I want to be able to see some of those tree limbs in there. But I want a lot of color. going to add a little bit of that teal. It's kind of like the yellow. It just kind of brightens up. I used to be really strict with the kids at school about the colors they used for fall trees. And then one day I drove by a tree. It had some purplish plumish color in it. And I had just told a child that day I didn't really know if they should be using quite as much of that color. And it was like, oh man, you have to be careful sometimes on those kind of things. And I know that, sometimes we think about what the traditional thing is. We don't think about, there are some other kinds of things. Plus, with a painting, it's actually your choice. And especially if you like this color, or there's some other color you like, that maybe is the color that's really in style right now in your decor, then maybe you do want to add just a little bit more of that in there. I think it also gives some depth to it. As I look at it and look what I did here, I think that doing multiple layers gives us a good depth for that painting. Okay, let's see here. I want to add a little more black in there. I think I want to lighten it up a little bit more here, which might mean I want to just take a brush to do that with. Oh, I think some granddaughters have been using my brushes. Yes. They might have done that. Okay, I found one. Do your brushes ever get that way? Or sometimes I've been known to walk off and forget them. Someone did tell me the other day that milk, if you put them in milk, that helps. I put them in milk the other day and it helped a little bit. I wouldn't say it solved the problem, but I would also say that acrylic, I've left them out and totally forgot them, and I've come back, and you can bring them back somewhat. They might never be as good as they were, but you can still use them, especially on that, like we talked about, the stenciling kind of part of it. They'll certainly work for some stuff like that. Okay, now I think that's starting to get where this, you're looking up into the tree, and this is kind of sideways into the tree. That's kind of the green, the teal kind of helped with that. A little bit more yellow there. That's kind of what I was wanting us to go for. See, this would be one that if you wanted to add some other nature items into the tree that might be, we think about more at fall. Put an old owl sitting up in one of those branches, or just eyes peeking out at you. That could be fun too. Okay. Okay, let's see. I'm working from a standing position because it works good with the video that way. However, when I'm doing some more of the fine work, it's a little bit trickier. So if it doesn't come out quite as good as you should on that, you will know why. Plus sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes it takes me a bit to get it right. Sometimes I paint and then we have the luxury, it's acrylic, let it dry, paint over a different spot. Helps if you get the right color. I got brown instead of black that time. Trying to do some outlining. To me, that texture of the bark, oh, it's beautiful in the fall. I'm so glad that Mid-Continent Public Library has all these really cool classes that you can do. I still remember the first time after not coming for a while. My kids had gotten older and I just didn't, I'm not as much a reader as some people. I'm an artist. So I came. I also have books at my school and at my church library, those kinds of things. And so I came back and I went, whoa, look at all this programming that they've added. And I started being a presenter, but I also started coming to the classes and ultimately ended up getting my storytelling certificate. So that was pretty exciting to be able to do that. They have all kinds of really fun classes. Okay, before that gets too dry, I'm going to dry brush the black down a little bit. There's also some online sections to the Mid-Continent website that have some teaching of all different kinds on there that is good to go in and learn. There's some art ones on there. Okay, that's starting to give me some more depth there. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, I'm gonna prop on the edge of the plate this time. Ah, yes. Starting to get some more. Okay, I need a smaller brush for some of those areas. Sometime when it rains in the fall, so when it rains here in the next few weeks, look at the tree bark. When it's still things are kind of damp outside, look at some of the trees, especially big old trees, and that there's still like moisture down deep in the tree. It's just, I find it gorgeous to see the texture that tree has from having lived over the years. I think I'm going to take my little paintbrush here and just add a few little bitty lines. Like sometimes you can look up. I'm going to dip in the, not swish, but dip. Get a little bit of that water off. And then I'm going to just put a few little limbs that you might see here and there. Okay. Now I want to do some more of that on this side. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this upside down because I want to be able to, I'm right-handed, and I want to be able to rest my hand on this plate or on my paintbrush on this side, and there's less chance of me messing up, I believe, doing that. So fix what's good for you. I'm going to pull my painting up some. And sometimes this is something that you have to experiment and find out what's good for you. You know, if you did decide to make a pumpkin at the bottom, you probably wouldn't see much of it. What I would suggest before you would just paint a pumpkin on there, I would suggest you cutting out something orange or paint a piece of paper orange or card, like a cereal box or something like that you have at the house that would be about the size you would want, and paint the pumpkin on that before you would decide to commit to that on your painting. I think given the right perspective, it might look good. However, you don't want it to get it on there and then go, oh no, I don't really like that. So that might be a good option to do on those. Yeah, sometimes I use my hands. They'll wash. I have oil on my skin. It'll keep that acrylic up. Now, if I was in the classroom with a bunch of kids, I might not do that. But here we have the luxury of, you know, you may even have wipes right beside of you. We have the luxury of just having a few people, being able to stop the video and go to the sink and clean if you need. Whole different kind of way of teaching and doing. All right. Sometimes it's so hard to just get a little bit. It takes a lot of like concentration, at least for me. And sometimes I still mess up. I used to have to, back in the old days, before we had computer systems like we do now, I had to do the calligraphy for every certificate that was given out in May in my building at school. And I just had to go lock myself in the room to myself and get really calm to be able to do that. When you're trying to do precise or small, it does take some concentration. Okay, I think that's starting to get it like I want it. And like I told you, if you want to kind of come back in here with a little bit of Sharpie, I would make sure I have a one that has a pretty good point or a fine line, because you don't want it to be too harsh. You want it to kind of blend in to the painting. See, I got quite a bit of white spot there. Let's see, where's my brown? Now, what brush do I want to use? I got all these brushes over here. Which one has brown? Sometimes that happens when you're doing this, really trying to do it really light, so it will dry quick. All right, we want to add in a few more little limbs like we have other places. Just a teeny little line kind of indicates that some of that, and we're going to be drawing to a close here on our painting soon. I do hope you have enjoyed taking the ride with me and making a fall tree. Like I said, it is one of my favorite times of the year. And I hope you like my simple style of teaching and that you will join me on other videos, and that you will support your Mid-Continent Public Library and their endeavors to bring art to you and other programs, but art's one of my favorite. Art and history are my passions there. Okay. So I need a little bit of lighter maybe to balance over here. Where's that yellow? My yellow dries up so fast here. That's the sound it makes when you're getting close to the end. I'm going to wipe it off. See if I can get a little bit more yellow on this other side. And then you go, oh, well, that doesn't equalize it. You know, you can just keep painting. Sometimes you have to just find a stopping spot. And you just have to keep going. You know, not keep going. Make yourself not keep going. Because then you just keep layering and layering is exactly what I look at that and I go, oh, that's not balanced either. Okay, let's balance some more. Okay, I got just a few more minutes. And then it is time to draw it to a close. You know, I kind of hope you'll watch this and learn about it. And then you'll invite some friends in and listen to it again. Or make one for a friend. Maybe there's a bunch of somebody out there that does homeschooling that might like to get some homeschoolers together. Okay. All right. Well, this is Sarah Poff, and this is our fall tree. This is, as you see, they never quite turn out the same. It's both a tree and both done with the same method, but as you see, they turn out different, and so it is quite all right if yours turns out different. I'm enjoying this season with my little pumpkin jewelry. Can you smell the pumpkin? I do like to smell and taste pumpkin this time of year, and I love the colors of the trees. So I hope you'll watch another one of my videos. This is Sarah Poff, and this is a wrap.